Okay, here's a quick review and overview of today's first lesson on inequalities. The first thing is that there are really only two things that we need to learn, and they are if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. So just a real quick example of that, it would be if I had negative 2x is less than 10, and I know to get the x by itself, so I drew my line down the middle. And I knew that to get my x by itself, I had to divide by negative 2. Since this number right here is negative, I know that I have to flip my inequalities. Of course, these cancel out just like equations. My x is left over. But since this number was negative, this flips the other way. Okay, so the number you're dividing by, if it's negative, flip the inequality. So now my answer is x is greater than negative 5. Now, if you see a symbol like less than or greater than, when you go to put this on the number line, you're going to use an open circle. So in my example up here, x is greater than negative 5. I'm going to draw my number line. I definitely want to put my number on it, negative 5. I'm going to pick a number bigger, so 0 would be bigger. I'm going to pick a number smaller, negative 10 would be smaller. And I want all of the x's that are bigger because it's open. I come to the open side first, so x is bigger than negative 5. Well, the x's are bigger on the right, so I know that I want to shade to the right. So I want over here, and the kind of circle that I want, we just talked about, is an open circle. So you're just going to draw an open circle, shade to the right, including the arrow. And then if you have a symbol like less than and equal to or greater than and equal to, that's when you'll have a closed circle. So an example of that might be x is less than or equal to 2. So I'm going to draw my number line. I know I have to have 2 on my number line. I'm going to pick a number that's bigger, and I'm going to pick a number that's smaller. Since there's this line underneath, so you see this line right here, since it has the line underneath, I know that I'm going to want to have a solid or a colored in circle. So I'm going to go ahead and color in my circle on 2. And I want the x's that are smaller because that's the small side of the arrow. So I want smaller x's, and they're smaller to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and shade to the left, including that arrow. So you should have a picture that looks something like that. All right, now I'm going to help you work on your worksheet. So since I have just a regular inequality, this is the less than symbol, and there's not a line underneath it, I know that I'm going to need an open circle. So I might make a note to you right here. So an open circle. What that means is I'm going to draw a circle on the number 6. So it's open, I'm not coloring it in. That means that I don't actually want to include 6. I only want to include the numbers that are smaller. So since the P is on the small side of the arrow, we're going to say smaller. So where are the numbers smaller than 6? Well, they're smaller than 6 on the left. So I'm going to shade, shade, shade all the way to the left. And then you're going to go ahead and color in the arrow part also. So shade to the left, color in the arrow, and that's your answer. All right, question 4. Now this one I actually have to solve for v. So what I have to do is I have to divide by 8. So divide by 8. And you know that, of course, I have my line down the center. And is the 8 positive or negative? Well, it's positive, so nothing special happens. Negative 88 divided by 8 is negative 11. Keep my inequality right on the line, and my 8's will cancel out, and I'll just have a v left. Now, this problem is written backwards, so we have to read it backwards. I know that I'm going to want a solid circle because of the line underneath, so I want a solid circle on the negative 11, so there's my 11, color it in, solid circle, and I want, watch me read it backwards, I want the V's that are bigger. Do you see how that's the big side of the arrow? So the V's, or the numbers that are bigger than negative 11. Now this is tricky for some of us. They're actually bigger on the right, so I'm going to go ahead and shade to the right, including my arrow. So shade to the right. All right, here we are on the last ones. Hopefully you've maybe tried some of the odd ones and know what you need to review, or maybe this is your second time watching it and you're just making sure you have all the steps. So just like an equation, I'm going to draw my fence through the equation. I want my variables on one side and my constants on the other. So I see right here I want to get rid of this constant of 7. So I'm going to add 7 on both sides. When I do, these 7's here cancel out, and I just have a b. Then I have less than or equal to, and then on the next step I want to watch and make sure, since I have different signs, I'm going to subtract. So 23 minus 7 gives us 16, and the 16 will be negative. So I want the b's that are less than or equal to negative 16. So what kind of circle will it be? Solid circle, because it has this line underneath, so a line underneath, solid circle, okay? And I want the b's, or the numbers that are smaller. Do you see how that's just the little side of the arrow? So the b's that are smaller than negative 16, and those are going to be the b's that are on the left. So I'm going to shade to the left, including the end of my arrow. Great. All right, very last one, and just since I'm a little bit short on space, I'm going to rewrite it off to the side. So negative 2x is less than 2. So just like I did before, I'm going to draw my fence through the middle. And to get the x by itself, I have to divide by negative 2. So I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. These cancel out. So I have the x by itself. 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. Now, we have to be careful when we divide by a negative number. So the number that I'm actually dividing by is negative. If I do that, then I have to flip the inequality. So it's no longer a less than symbol. Now it's a greater than symbol. To graph this, it's always a good sign that my answer number is on the graph. So to graph this, I'm going to put an open circle on negative 1, no line underneath, so don't color it in, and I want the x's that are bigger. Do you see how that's the big side of the arrow? So bigger x's. X is bigger than negative 1, well those are the x's, or the numbers on the right. So I'll shade all of those in, including the arrow. Perfect. What you should do is you should practice the rest of this worksheet, finish it up, then make sure you flip to the back of your packet and you need to write one thing that you learned or that you know well now, something good, and then I need you also to ask me one question, because I'm pretty sure that everybody has some sort of question that they can ask about inequalities, and then we will discuss them tomorrow in class.